My name is Tony Scarton, and I'm here with Glenn Fellows. We represent the class, the Valley High class of 1964. So I'm glad that you're clapping. We're still kicking. So I think a lot of the younger folks are trying to calculate, man, that's way back. So, you know, we're really proud of our class. We've had some outstanding students graduate from our class. And, you know, we're here this afternoon to honor one of those outstanding students, and that's Lou Hoffman. Lou has had a long career with the city, and he continues to work for the city. And I know there's a lot of his co-workers that are here. Would you please stand up, and would like to give you recognition as well. And of course, we have our distinguished guest, the mayor. Mayor. And of course, the rest of us are these old Vikings that we're still kicking. We still have that Viking spirit. So you deserve a hand. I'd like Lou to stand with Marcy, if you may. I'm sure everybody knows Lou. I'm sure probably everybody knows Marcy. But Marcy, we want to give you a special thanks for all of the support that you've given Lou for all these years on all these projects. And I'm sure Lou will join me in thanking you. You know, you might say that Lou is the founding father of this facility.
That's right.
This facility is just amazing. It's 25 acres of park that encompasses a museum, an amphitheater, a conference center. There's 30 different menus, which include 17 monuments, which is just amazing. So, any of you that haven't had a tour of the park, I suggest you take the time. It is very special. There's a lot of events that are going on here constantly. But I do suggest that you call Lou, because his tour is amazing, because he gives you all the inside scoop on the planning and the personal touch of what he's added to the park. In some cases, he's even added to the inscription of some of these monuments. So Lou is a big, huge part of that. I don't know if you know it, but Lou's birthday is December the 7th. Pearl Harbor Day. So I'm not so sure it's Lou's destiny to be part of something like this to honor all the veterans. So I think it was part of his destiny, to tell you the truth. Lou's commitment to the park has just been unwavering. He was involved in the initial concept, the initial planning, the purchase of the land. I know he was able to raise money from certain donors, the collaboration with the city, and of course he worked for the city, so that really helped as well. But we have an exceptional park here, and it's an exceptional tribute to our veterans in this state and across the country. So Lou, we do thank you for that. I want to turn the mic over to Glenn Fellows. I would like to thank Glenn. He spearheaded this whole project. And of course, he's had a lot of assistance from our classmates. There's been considerable donations. There's been time, and a lot of people have spent the service part. Even the flowers are all coming from the class. So Glenn, thank you for setting this up, and thanks for all the help from all the classmates.
Thank you, Tony. I have a bunch of notes, but I never tend to look at my notes when I get into these things. We were standing around here last, I don't know, 2-3 years ago, planning another get-together of the class. People started talking more and more about where to have another get-together. That was right after the 50-year reunion. Lou kept saying, "You guys ought to consider coming over to the Veteran Memorial." So we had a birthday party here 2 summers ago, and I was talking to people, and they said, "You know, Lou had a lot to do with this." I didn't realize that. Tony's explained some of that. I think right about that time, a little light bulb went off in my mind, and I said, "Well, I think it's time to start talking to some people about doing something for Lou," and here we are 2 years later, and I'm happy it's happening, and it's an appropriate time of year for it. So thanks for everybody that helped. You know, today, if it hadn't have been for Carol Benefield, number one, we wouldn't have all this wonderful food. She could put it all together over the last week and a half, so we got to thank Carol. Carol's right there. Donna Baldoni also helped out quite a bit, and of course, so did Katie, providing the flowers. So, thank you all. So, 53 years ago, next Friday, we were all assembled as a class at Johnson Gym. That's when we graduated. It was quite a bit ago, but it's been a long time here. Many of us stayed here and had successful businesses, and some have retired, and some of us, like Lou and I, are still working. So it's a tribute to you, Lou. It's fun to get up and go to work every day, and that's why we keep doing it. But I got to tell you, I grew up in a military family. I traveled the world. I was pretty lucky as a kid. I learned a lot from, especially from my dad, who was an Air Force colonel, and my tenure in the Navy. So this is a special place for all of us, and thanks again, Lou. Lou has spent a career at the city, and I was talking to Mayor Barry a couple of years ago at his gala, and I asked him about Lou, and he said, "Man, that guy has helped us out so much. I hope we can get something done for him." And I'd like to introduce Mayor Barry, and maybe he could share a few of those stories. Thank you for coming today, Mayor, and thanks everybody for being here.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Glenn. I appreciate it. How's everybody today? Good. Thanks for the food. I will eat more in just a little bit. I just kind of want to start off. I'm gonna brag on Lou a little bit today, but let me start by thanking everybody that's here from the city, all of our city employees, all the co-workers, the people that work with Lou, and that really work down at City Hall to make sure that we live in a great city. We have 6,000 employees at the city of Albuquerque, and I am more impressed every single day. They just do great work. So to the employees that are here to celebrate your friend, thank you. And thanks for everybody for taking a little time. I mean, we live in a world where everything's getting faster and faster, and it's just really neat when we get a chance to stop for a few minutes, break a little bread, enjoy each other's company. We've got several generations of We've got kids here. We've got not kids. We've got folks from the entire spectrum just coming together as a community to celebrate one of our friends, and that's rarer than it needs to be. So thank you for everybody that took the time to do this today. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Lou, and I'm going to start off by saying he's awful at retirement. He has no idea how to retire. He is a guy that worked for so many years at the city of Albuquerque. In fact, he just started back. Lou, I got it right here somewhere. You started in 1983. So I graduated from high school in 1981. So 1983, I was a sophomore at UNM when Lou started working for the city, and he worked as a rate analyst, and then he retired in 2006 as the city treasurer. When I ran for mayor, I asked Lou if he would please come back, and he did. He came back in 2009, and he has worked alongside these valuable employees and myself as the mayor to, quite frankly, navigate through one of the most difficult financial times that our country has seen since the Great Depression. He came in and he worked with us to get this deficit figured out early on without having to lay off our employees. Tough decisions to make, but you can't make those if you don't have good, quality, solid people helping you make these decisions. And so he's been there through some difficult times. He has 200 plus employees that he works with. He manages a $72 million budget for his department. He oversees 311, the accounting, the fleet department, the Office of Management and Budget, purchasing, risk management, and the treasury. So that's a heavy lift every day. And I know Lou would say the same thing about his employees. You just can't do it without great folks. But we decided to do some things at the city where we wanted to rebuild the internal workings with the ERP systems, and these are all government acronyms, but just to suffice it to say, we wanted to make sure that the city ran better as an organization than it did before. So the taxpayers gave us millions of dollars on a GEO bond, and we've implemented that over the years. For the first time in 12 years, our audit was on time. It's been on time since. Audit findings are down. So let me just suffice to say, Lou's good at his job. And I'm thankful, Mayor, that he is good at his job. But he's really lived a life of service. If you look back at all the things that Lou has done to give of his time and talent in our country, he stands out as well. He served 6 years in the Army Reserve. He was an E6 staff sergeant. He worked with the Army engineers as a pipeline specialist and a squad leader. Then he continued to be committed to volunteering his time and efforts to the Vietnam Memorial, as we're sitting here today as well. And so he did a lot of things in his military service as well. He was awarded the 2004 Kirtland Air Force Base Services Partnership Award, and he was also an honorary commander in 1997. I'm an honorary commander this year, Lou, so that's always a great honor. Aside from his military experience, he started a company that was eventually merged with a publicly traded company in a tax-exempt stock exchange transaction. He's a graduate of Valley, so where's all the Valley people? I'm a big fan of Valley. Side note, moment of personal privilege, Mr. Speaker. Valley High School holds a special place for me as a mayor because when I was a state legislator, I went to Valley High School and I asked the kids what they thought they needed to help them graduate. And out of that conversation came Running Start for Careers, which was just recognized as one of the top 25 innovations in all of government. Because we got these kids coming through Running Start this curriculum track, and they have a 99% on-time graduation rate. And some of these kids are coming out of pretty difficult backgrounds, and some are coming out of not difficult backgrounds. But a kid at Valley High School is the one that got me thinking about that. So thanks to Valley High School. Back to Lou. He was a 1998 recipient of the Governor's Distinguished Public Service Award. And he is really just a guy that has spent his life paying it forward. And he's done a lot for our community and our country. He was the vice president of the Albuquerque JCs in 1971 when they sponsored the first local Special Olympics competition at UNM Stadium. He produced Albuquerque's first AAU sponsored Russian collegiate basketball game at Johnson Gym in '72. The event went on to be at the pit later. During the Vietnam War, Lou was a member of the 387th Army Reserve Engineering Company, and through his membership, he arranged for his unit to do some things at the biopark and the zoo at the time, so he did that. As a staff sergeant, he also persuaded his entire engineering company to convoy up to Cuba, New Mexico, where they repaired and improved the Girl Scout camp up there. And he's raised a beautiful family that is engaged in the community, that is really giving back at that next generational level. Certainly, Marcia, congratulations to you. All of us that work with Lou every day know what kind of a saint you must be. No, I'm kidding. So we appreciate you. We appreciate you doing that. To the girls, thank you so much, Leslie and Natalie, for being here to help us honor your dad today. And also Bernie, thank you so much for facilitating the event. And Glenn, also thank you for organizing. So what I'm going to do today, you want Lou to come up to get this? Lou, would you come up just a moment? We have a plaque that we're going to give you. As he's coming up, let me give you a little backstory on this place. So Barbara Taylor was, where's Barbara? Barbara Taylor was giving me some backstory on this whole, on how this place came about. So everybody knows that Lou was kind of one of the masterminds and one of the folks that really helped fund this place. But let me tell you a little bit about how that happened. He got together with the city councilor at the time, and this was a great idea, a great way to honor the 170,000 plus veterans we have in New Mexico. Everybody thought this was a good idea. But one of the things I always tell people as a mayor, the difference between a vision, and he had a vision, we had a vision for this place, the difference between a vision and a hallucination is usually just money. Well, so you need to get the money. So Lou found a very savvy, it's not into the word, smart way. He found a smart way to try to fund this. And tell me if this is wrong, and you can blame Barbara. But worked with Councilor Maillet at the time to get a resolution passed that said, look, if property taxes happen to come in higher than we thought they would, we would like to dedicate some of those dollars to this facility. And in fact, they did that year. And that was an original catalyst with several $1 million to put this in motion. And now we are in one of, I think, if not the finest, one of the finest veterans facilities, memorial parks in the United States. And it's so fitting because we are a place that is rich in veterans and in veteran service. So he's not only cares and gives back, but he's smart about how he does it. So we are going to dedicate a plaque today to Lou. And let me show it to you. Would you make this out of kryptonite? This thing weighs about 1,000 pounds. Hold on. So this is the plaque, and let me read it to you, and I'm going to give it to Lou here. It says, Lou Hoffman, in honor of and with sincere appreciation to Lou Hoffman, U.S. Army veteran, high school and college classmate, family man, and longtime City of Albuquerque employee, recognizing Lou's unswerving dedication to the development of the New Mexico Veterans Memorial, arranging and shepherding the project from conception through land purchase, design, construction, and operation of this special place, presented by the class of 1964 Valley High School on this Memorial Day 2017. So we will. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to hand the microphone to the man of the hour. Lou, congratulations. From a grateful mayor. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. First thing, I wanted to thank Mayor Berry for being here and taking time out of his busy schedule. I know he was booked right up until noon today and had to make the trip here. That's why we're doing this at 12:30. His afternoon doesn't get any better. So thank you, Mayor. I appreciate your comments. Maybe with regard to what Tony Scarton had to say about all I do, or did, I'm getting a little old, guys. Anyway, I I thought I'd just share with you before I get into some more formal remarks, a nickname my parents had for me when I was a toddler. They used to call me Doozy. Now, I don't know, but maybe that was fateful because I've always been doing. And so I little personal tidbit I don't think anybody knows. But I also wanted to thank Tony Scarton and Glenn Fellows, who I think was a ringleader, and Ed Valancourt, who were the point of this project to get this organized. I also wanted to thank all of the people who donated to make this happen. I assume a lot of you are here. What I wanted to do was actually read this list, so those of you who know your friends and maybe not have seen this will recognize that over 25 people who donated to do this. And what I'd like you to do, if you're on this list, I'm going to read these alphabetically. Please raise your arms so your classmates can know you're here. So Bruce Alexander, Sylvia Anaya, hang on, sorry. This will help a lot. Sylvia Anaya Gonzalez, Diane Baker, I know Diane's here. Gary Bland, Linda Calderon Martin, Abby Kaplan, Lynn Fellows, of course, is here. Donna Fink, Baldwini, Donna's here. I hope you caught up with Leslie, Donna. Ray Gear, Ray couldn't make it today. Steve Horsheimer's here, I know. Pat Hubbard Padilla, Pat's here. Thank you, Pat. John Leslie, John. Katie Lowry Zachary, right there. Nick Pavlokovich, Nick and his grandchild are here. Dick Pierce, Bob Richardson, Jerry Rivera, Tony Scarton, Darlene Serrano Fajardo, Mike Shaka, Rose Tagliafaria, Fulton, Rose is here. Tony Trujillo, Ed Valancourt's here, and Sue Warren. So these people made it possible to do this together with the Board of Directors and former chairman of the New Mexico Veterans Memorial, who I very much appreciate their cooperation. We have a couple of those chairmen, I think, here today. We have Don Loftus, who's a former chairman. The chairman before him was Roger Knight, who's around here somewhere, right here in the corner. Hoo-ah! Roger's also my travel mate. We went to Normandy a couple of years ago together, and this year I hope we get to go to Italy. We have a tour scheduled, which will be very nice. We're doing military tours, can you imagine? Roger and Don both are retired Rangers from the Army. Roger was actually Green Beret and served in Vietnam. I think Don spent most of his time in Europe and Germany. So in fact, when we did Vietnam, the main concern, just as Korea had been, was that this was really a diversion to the United States and the rest of the world. They wanted us to pull our troops out of Europe so they could invade. That was the assumption. And so that's why so many people got drafted for Vietnam. They didn't have enough people to serve. And if you want to read that history, it's outside. But I thought I would go back and share some other history, just so we have a clear record of how this memorial came about. It really started in, I believe it was the summer of 1991, which was the 50th anniversary of World War II. I was in Deming for the annual meeting, or board of directors meeting, of the Bataan veterans, many of whom were my family friends. They had served under my grandfather, Harry M. Peck, who had actually commanded the 515th Coast Artillery in Luzon. And together they all shared 40 months of prison camp. But it turned out at that particular meeting, the town of Deming and the veterans there had managed to raise $40,000 to build a monument, which turned out to be an obelisk. And when we finally had the board meeting, They turned to me, particularly Ralph Rodriguez, who's still alive. He's in his 90s now, one of the few that are still living. Was a good friend of my grandfather's after the war. Asked me if the city of Albuquerque couldn't do something a little nicer than what Deming had done, and I said that's probably possible. My assumption was that we were talking about a piece of public art and that it might take me 6 months to do. Well, it's 25 years and I'm still out here. So in any event, we took that request and I went to Mayor Saavedra, asked him if I could have permission to start a project like that. And he said, yes, but please get Gordon Church. And you'll notice when you leave between these two doors, on the back side, a special bench out there. It was designed to recognize Gordon, who died of pancreatic cancer. He himself was a Vietnam veteran, been a translator, and had actually received the Silver Star in Vietnam, which he never talked about. But anyway, Gordon was my co-conspirator, and what we ended up doing actually was competing this facility as a piece of public art, not as an architectural project. And folks like Glenn would know that when we compete architectural products, you never know what's coming out the other end. It's based mostly on minimum qualifications and how much work you've done for the city. Totally crazy. There's Tina Reams back there. I see her smiling now. Tina was another one of our conspirators when this project started. She's now a partner in Cherry C. Reams Architecture, sorry. She actually was an intern out here when this all began, and now is a partner in the firm. But nonetheless, we decided to compete this as a piece of public art, and we ended up with 3 proposals, and the Cherry C. Reams proposal actually won. What they had proposed to do, this was shortly after all the Ernie Pyle stories had been running in the newspaper again because of the 50th anniversary of World War II. And the RFP actually, I got to back up just a little bit, was based on work that I had done with the volunteers, veteran volunteers that had been willing to help me work through this in the year or two prior to that RFP, which was an attempt to try to build consensus on this project. If you know, sometimes the Korean veterans have a different perspective on their place in history than maybe the World War II veterans or the Vietnam veterans. It was a little hard to get everybody on the same page, but what we finally did was agree on a set of attributes, minimum qualifications, both for the site and what was required here, like parking and restrooms, and a site location, criteria for that. And it was easy enough to find a site because we worked with Parks and Recreation to go over the available land, and it turned out that Filchicone Park here was only half developed, and this left was, what was left out here was really available for some discretionary development. And so we did the RFP and got that going. After we finally had a conceptual design from Cherry C in a booklet form with renderings, I actually took those documents to Washington, met with Senators Bingaman and Domenici, Councilor, or Representative Schiff, and just wanted them to know about it. I didn't go back specifically to do that. I had a business trip that took time out to get that done. Turned out, a week or two after that trip, a young lady showed up to my office in Treasury and asked for me, and I didn't know her from Adam. And I asked her what I could do for her, and she said, well, nothing, I'm here to help you, which kind of flabbergasted me. But she says, Congressman Schiff sent me over here and wants me to help you with the Veterans Memorial. So that started a relationship that helped organize the veterans community. We had a challenge with the veterans community in some ways, not unlike Roger Knight with his Montagnards in the mountains of Vietnam. You're part of one of those Green Beret teams. What you've got to do is go in and identify the leadership of a community, try to empower them, provide training to the community, organize them so they can be effective working together, and then eventually, hopefully transition that leadership to the community. And in many ways, I'd like to think that's what I accomplished with the veterans community here in our efforts to build consistency on this project. So as the project began to develop, Senator Bingaman actually here was groundbreaking, dedicated the facility. Senator Domenici used to come out here quite frequently and present medals and things to his constituents. Both he and Schiff did commercials to help us raise money. When this was all said and done, we'd raised about $100,000 in private donations, which is a minor part of the funding for this project. The project itself is $13 million. It was funded largely from GEO-bond proceeds of $6 million that the mayor talked about were really the last $6 million. We'd also gotten $3 million from state capital outlay, and Shannon Robinson, who was a senator in this part of the city, was responsible for that. So we had to piece the things together. Fairleigh County gave us another $200,000. But in the end, we had what we needed to finish the project. And all in all, it took us about 13 years to finally get the physical plant completed. And organizing and working with the veterans community, which involved also the United Veterans Council. Ken O'Keefe is over here. Ken's always the MC for Memorial Day and Veterans Day ceremonies. They were certainly a part of getting this group organized, but their charter and their 401c application in the federal government was broader than what some of the veterans thought they needed, so we formed our own foundation. So I don't know that I need to keep going on, but that's kind of how we got here. This will always be a work in progress. If you have a chance to walk the site, you'll find a lot of monuments from various veterans groups. The site was intended to actually be kind of a palette, so we could develop an informal oral history of the state of New Mexico's veterans using the site to do that. You find bricks with personal histories on them, plaques, roses, all sorts of ways of people memorializing loved ones and friends. And you'll also find some historical monuments out there that sort of designate different areas geographically by periods of time, starting with the territorial New Mexico and working through Vietnam. The one thing I was mentioning before lunch that I don't think a lot of people recognize, it took us at least 25 years to write that history on Vietnam. Reasons for that is it was a very political event. Not everybody had the straight story. Not everybody, there was no consensus on what really happened. And so there was a lot of noise and misinformation out there. And after a period of time, the historians began to take over and record what's accurate. Unfortunately, I was able, when we wrote that history that you'll find outside, we were able to use the work done by the Military History Institute, Carlisle Barracks, which is Army, and another colonel that had been there, and write something that was really salient and truthful and was apolitical. The only political statement that might be on there, if you walk out, there's a picture of some folks marching along with a banner saying peace. But that was part of Albuquerque and the riots that we had at the university, and Jane Fonda and all the falderall over that. So it's all history we've all probably pretty much forgotten or tried to put behind us by now. Nothing like some of our veterans here. Nick Pavlakovich was a tank commander in Vietnam, in charge of a M48, I think. So some of these guys are really easy for me to say, battle hardened. I can't claim that for myself, but I've tried to do what I can to recognize these folks. So thank you very much. I think that's enough.
Hey, Lou, before you run off.
Before you run off, I think we've got another recognition here to go.
No, sorry. No problem. No, sorry, I didn't know.
I'm Roger Newell, I'm the Veterans Liaison for the city, and I'm standing in front of the beacon. I want to take a moment just to thank Lou for all he's done. I'm also the chairman for the Memorial Review Committee, which handles the monuments that go in here. And all that Lou has started, the philosophy, we continue to strive and make it move forward in a positive way. But what I came up here to do, a couple years ago, the mayor and I put together a little thank you card, like a business card. And I want to present one. It has a flag folded in. It says from the mayor, thank you for your service to our country. But on the back, as Lou was mentioning, there's a picture of the Vietnam Monument out here in the grounds. And on the bottom of it is a statement that Vietnam veterans hold dear to our hearts. Never again will one generation of veterans abandon another. And with that moment, I want to pass this to Lou, thank him for all he's done for veterans, and thank you all, veterans here, not Purple Heart, but Vietnam veterans and others, for what you've done for our country.